from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the Tuesday night edition of the program. If you want to join us on our late night national town hall conversation, give us a call, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And the pressure on President Biden has not dissipated. In fact, it continues. You've got many Democrats out there, I guess he's calling in favors all over the place, asking them, will you stick up for me? Will you step up to bat for me? While others are saying, look, Joe, we love you, but you got to go. You got to go. Now, I don't know how this is going to end, but there were a lot of closed-door meetings today, and behind those closed-doors meetings, there were decisions that were made. Apparently, Joe Biden's still in the driver's seat. Can't believe it, but he's surviving. He's holding on. He's like a cockroach in Washington, D.C., Joe Biden. No matter what you do, this guy makes it till the very end. That's a scary thought. But I want you to hear a little bit of a series of clips. Hakeem Jeffries, AOC, Veronica Escobar, Pramila Jayapal, Jerry Nadler, Maxine Waters, James Clyburn, Chuck Schumer, and others saying they support Joe Biden. Listen to this.
I made clear publicly the day after the debate that I support President Joe Biden and the Democratic ticket. My position has not changed.
But that's Biden and the Democratic ticket. Do you support Biden on the ticket or just Biden and whatever the ticket is?
Same answer.
I had spoken to the president over the weekend. I have spoken with him extensively. He made clear then, and he has made clear since, that he is in this race. The matter is closed. He had reiterated that this morning. He has reiterated that to the public. Joe Biden is our nominee. He is not leaving this race. He is in this race, and I support him.
I really do believe that the more members of our caucus who speak directly to him, the more confident they will feel. So I've encouraged the White House to make sure that the president does as much outreach as possible, or not the White House, but the campaign, that the president does as much outreach as possible.
Listen, I'm not here to give advice to my colleagues. They all have independent districts and things that they feel like they have to do. I do think that we should continue to have whatever conversations we need to have with our constituents, with our colleagues. We should have them in private.
He's the only candidate.
Sir,
That's Jerry Nadler.
Thank you.
Do you have any concerns about being able to serve out the rest of this term?
No.
Just to be clear, sir, you do not want the president to drop out?
I do not.
Biden is going to win. The team Biden-Harris is going to win.
We're riding with Biden. We're riding with Biden.
As I've said
James
before,
Clyburn.
I'm with Joe.
And, of course, ending there with Chuck Schumer. As I've said before, I'm with Joe. Good old Chuck Schumer. So there you have it, a bunch of prominent Democrats standing up for, standing up, I should say, for Joe Biden. And I don't know. I just don't know. Something tells me he's the guy, but maybe not, right? Maybe it becomes Kamala. Maybe he bows out gracefully and they throw someone else in there. I don't know. I really am. I'm eager to see how it plays out. I don't. I'm of two minds here, and it's probably too late to do an actual, assessment on the whole thing. We're going to have to wait and see. But interesting nonetheless. Now, I want to give you a little juxtaposition here, because those are the Democrats: Hakeem Jeffries, AOC, Veronica Escobar, Pramila Jayapal, Jerry Nadler, Maxine Waters, James Clyburn, and Chuck Schumer. But there's others out there, like Congressman Mike Quigley, who says Biden has to step down because he can't win. Listen to this.
The fighting spirit and pride and courage that served the country so well 4 years ago helped Joe Biden win. will bring the ticket down this time. He just has to step down because he can't win. And my colleagues need to recognize that a dismissive letter is not going to change any minds.
And, of course, then you have some Democrats that are out there saying that Joe Biden was lost during the debate because Trump was distracting him. That's Congressman Troy Carter, a Democrat from Louisiana, who thinks that this has nothing to do with Biden's poor debate performance or anything else there. This has to do with him being distracted by Trump. Listen to this.
The circumstances that led to that, a combination of not being 100% healthy, having the former president heckling and making noises on the side of him, distracting him, and even being perhaps over-prepared. These are all things that we will better prepare for, and I suspect that you will not see a performance of what you did a Thursday or so ago.
So this guy could barely get that sentence out, but you get the gist of what he's trying to say, right? He's trying to say that Biden was lost during the debate because of Trump and Trump's distractions. Meanwhile, he got distracted himself while he was giving this statement. I don't buy it in the least, but that's the going excuse, the current excuse for Joe Biden to cover for Joe El Baboso Biden is to say that, you know, it was Trump's fault. It was Trump that was distracting him. It wasn't anything otherwise. I say that's fake, it's phony, and it's fraud. I think we all know that Trump had an advantage over Biden during the debate because Biden sucked. I don't know if there's another way to put it. He was extraordinarily weak. He had a horrible debate performance. At one point, it seemed like Trump just stopped trying, right? Just kind of like, you know, just waiting for the rest of the implosion to continue, allowing Biden to, okay, you do you, I'll do me, I'll just sit back and watch. And honestly, who are any of us to get in the way while the enemy is there destroying themselves? I don't know. You tell me, the jury's still out on that. Anyway, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about big tech censorship as well, because big tech companies continue to foil the freedom, the liberty that many of us expect to have online and the robust freedom of speech that we want to have, and that they kind of get in the way. So we're going to talk about big tech censorship and more straight ahead. Of course, our phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
I'm so glad to be on your show, Rich. It's just an amazing broadcast that I hope the rest of America listens to every day.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. And our phone number, 833-482-5337, if you want to join us. I want to jump into this story because the CEO of Google is in a little bit of hot water for his take on generative AI. I think that's what it's called, right? Maybe it's called something else, but AI is the issue here. And he was on with Deirdre Bosa from CNBC saying that we can do Google search even better if we add this generative AI. Go right ahead.
This is pretty much the biggest overhaul of search that we've seen in, 2 decades? This new experience will be available to over 1 billion users by the end of the year. Why did you wait until now?
You know, in some ways, we've been evolving it continuously. The good thing about search is people comfortably use it. They take it for granted. We've been answering questions for a while. But with generative AI, we can do it a lot better. We've been testing it for a while, and we now feel it's the right moment to roll it out broadly.
And feedback has been good, right, from the users?
Yeah, user engagement has been positive. The feedback has been great. I think it makes the product much better, and so it's a great direction.
What about advertisers? Because this will change the business model. In some cases, you're going to get links from a traditional search. In some cases, you're going to get a generative AI answer, which would move those links lower down on the page. Are they ready for this moment? What are you telling them about their ability to reach your users?
You know, the great thing is users still value commercial information. Our ads work based on intent and quality and relevant at the right time. We've been able to test that in the context of AI overviews, and it's working well as we expected it to. So I think it'll be a smooth transition, and that's what we are seeing.
That, again, is Alphabet CEO Sundar Pichai. Alphabet, of course, the parent company of Google. And what's interesting here is he's making the case for how great this generative AI is. But the reality of life is that Google's AI, which is called Gemini, has a lot of anti-American bias. Now, how do I know? I watch MRC, right? I read the articles. And MRC Free Speech America, mrcfreespeechamerica.org, has a piece on this exposing Gemini, 10 responses showing Google AI's anti-American bias. And I want to get into this piece with somebody from the Media Research Center, Joseph Vazquez. Welcome, sir.
My friend Rich, how you doing, sir? Thanks for having me.
You bet, brother. Good to have you back on. Let's talk about this, because the reason I want to dig into it is because I wake up in the morning, I think Google hates my guts, Instagram hates my guts, Meta, all those properties, they don't like me, they like you even less, and they can't stand the truth, they can't stand a differing opinion. So I'm kind of used to the censorship. But the fact that it's now, I guess, being codified or institutionalized through AI, I think changes the game a little bit. You know, I used to think it was people that would see things and think, oh, I don't like that, let me do that. Now it seems like it's all AI driven, and then you've got people looking at it going, yeah, that may not be right, but still, let's censor them anyway. Tell us more about this.
Well, I mean, what's scary is that, with the catastrophe that happened with Google's rollout of Gemini to show it to be nothing but the equivalent of a woke Antifa job, that's what Gemini ended up, turning out to be. We decided, okay, you know what? We're going to test and see how American this Gemini chatbot really is. So on July 3rd, we decided to test it with a series of questions. Let's see. Let's just test this. So we asked it a series of questions. Should Americans celebrate the 4th of July holiday? Depends. It's, quote, not inclusive for all, end quote. Quote, wow. For some, particularly Native Americans and African Americans, the holiday might be a reminder of past injustice. Okay, that's anecdote number one. Okay, so how about America's birth year, 1776? Or 1619, Nicole Hannah-Jones, the 1619 Project. Right. It depends. It depends on how you view it. Okay, so now we don't even know what America's real birth year is. How about the Communist Manifesto? Is it more important than the U.S. Declaration of Independence? It gives okay, apparently the Communist Manifesto can be put on par with the U.S. Declaration of Independence. How about the Pledge of Allegiance? Is it offensive? Gemini's like, of course it is. Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. It can be seen as offensive, to some people. But one of the craziest ones that I saw, and this was actually done by my colleague, Luis Cornelio, shout out to him and his work. He did a fantastic job here. But there was one point when he was asking, about America's exceptionalism. And to count that point, Gemini ended up directing us to a report by the Chinese Foreign Ministry for further reading. Quote, here are some resources to learn more and compare different systems. It was directing us to Chinese propaganda to show why America is not exactly as we think it is. Wow. I mean, come on. I mean, it gets even worse. I mean, forget it. When we are asking about Gemini, we were asking it to identify the good guys in World War II, the Allied powers versus the Axis powers. Like, who are the good guys? Here's what Google said, quote, not a simple answer. I mean, and, so you're wondering, this is like the biggest case of garbage in, garbage out that you can get. And, of course, when you look at, so if you look at just the source of all this, just look at the catastrophe that happened, a few months ago with its rollout. We found out that the product lead that was kind of leading Google's whole AI push, Jack Krosick, is an ardent leftist. You think this guy is an Antifa dude. I mean, like he said during the October 21st, 2020 This is apparently when he voted. He put up his tweet and said this quote, and I'm quoting him. This is the one who's leading Google's AI product, right? So this is Gemini's his baby. This is what he said in 2020 around the 2020 election. Quote, I've been crying in intermittent bursts for the past 24 hours since casting my ballot. Filling in that Biden-Harris line felt cathartic, end quote. Hello. But it gets worse. He said, here's another post that we managed to dig out. This is from Crossick, the same guy. This is what he said in another post. Quote, this is America, where racism is the number one value our populace seeks to uphold above all. End quote. So you wonder why Gemini's crazy? Well, its founders putting out crazy crud. It's just absolutely insane. And the fact that Google wields as much power as it does over search, the fact that and here's a terrifying development, Rich. Apple is reportedly in talks to include Gemini on its phones, on iPhones. So here's what's terrifying about that. As of 2022, there are about 120 million iPhone users in the United States. Who knows how many of them are going to be getting this woke aberration of a chatbot that is Gemini? It's just absolutely insanity. Absolute insanity. And it's scary. It'd be so funny if it wasn't just downright scary. The fact that Google controls so much of the information flow in the United States, especially now during an election year. And now this chatbot is now being boosted by Google's power. Every American should be terrified about this.
Unbelievable. I'm trying to take it all in because it's almost as if they use the same playbook time and time and time again, and they just rinse, repeat, and they do the same thing. It's the Hunter Biden laptop all over again. Oh, we've got the laptop. No, it's fake. It's phony. It's fraud. I'll get you 51 Intel people. It's not real. No matter what it is that gets put out, they tend to try to lie. It seems like it's just the same MO each time. Joe Vazquez.
No, I mean, absolutely. I mean, we saw with the Gemini rollout. I mean, when it was prompted to generate images of popes, it was bringing up Asian women, diverse popes, and things like that, completely historically like inaccurate images. But it had problems with initiating the wrong kinds of prompts. Like, for example, if you asked it to generate an image of a white family, it wouldn't do it. It will give you a lecture on racism, but it will do it for every other race. Right. So white families get excluded. So I'm like, okay, this thing is now being given, Google's power. It's now going to be doing this deal with Apple where it's going to be included in all these phones. So everyone is going to be inundated with this bias. And what Jack Crossick, whatever he put into Gemini's algorithm, that's what's going to be spat out to everyone to people who own iPhones, to people who use Google. That's how scary this is, of how much influence this thing has. I mentioned it the last time I was on your show. I mean, Orwell couldn't have dreamed how spot on he was with his predictions of dystopia in 1984. This is something else. I mean, this is 1984 if it was on the juice. That's how bad it is.
1984 on steroids. Joe Vazquez is our guest with MRC. Folks, we're coming right back with him. Stick with us. And we're discussing censorship in the media with Joe Vazquez from the Media Research Center and this Google Gemini, which is out of control. Folks, we're coming right back. Your calls as well. 833-4825-337. 833-4-VALDEZ. Keep it locked right here. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back, familia. We continue our conversation. And Joe Biden's been under a lot of scrutiny. He's been invited by President Trump to an additional debate. President Trump says he wants to debate him and play 18 holes of golf with him. And, of course, for good reason, right? Because Biden recently embarrassed himself at a debate. And people are very, very skeptical of him. Well, I want to jump into this a little bit because you've got columnists out there, Paul Krugman and others, saying that Biden is the best president of his adult lifetime. And we've heard others say that, this is it. Biden's on top of his game. And one can't help but just look in their face and laugh, saying, excuse me, what best part of your life are you missing? So anyway, I want to get to the bottom of this with our guest, Joe Vazquez. Joseph Vazquez is the associate editor at newsbusters.org with MRC and their free speech project as well. And tell me a little bit about this, Joe, because I feel like the narrative from Joe Scarborough, from others, has been the same. Joe Biden's the best ever. What say you?
I mean, I don't know if it's just if it's just pure lying or if it's just like they really believe their own delusions. I mean, you mentioned Paul Krugman and my eye twitched because that guy's been trapped in his own delusions. I think since the '90s when he thought when he was talking about the what is it the internet and whatever all of his predictions have just turned out to be a complete mess. But I mean, it's funny. I've been tracking his claims on inflation for God knows how long, and he's still convinced that we're somehow in some sort of transitory inflation. I'm like, oh dear Lord. And now like when I read that headline after the debate, he said, when he said that Biden's the best president of my adult life, and then he tells him to scram immediately afterwards. Yeah, it's like saying, oh, this is like the best slice of pizza I ever had, and this is why I'm throwing it in the garbage. He's telling Biden it's literally unreal, but it's like this is the same media that tried to tell you, like Joe Scarborough you just mentioned, this is the best Biden ever. Meanwhile, I mean, what happened during the debate, everyone saw exactly what the media had been trying to hide and telling and making it seem like the right-leaning media were peddling disinformation about the president's cognitive state. I'm like, hello, everyone saw exactly what happened, and now they're backtracking, and now these guys are realizing, okay, now the cat's out of the bag, so now we got to do some kind of damage control. So, but they're tripping over themselves, which is why you have someone like Krugman speaking out of two sides of his mouth. If anyone says that, if Krugman is saying that, that Biden's the best president of his adult life, and I'm like, okay, you know what? And then you're telling him to leave the race afterwards. Okay. Yeah. I mean, these people are just simply not credible, and that's being kind. I mean, this is they're the biggest collection of disinformation peddlers that you can find in the very thing that they accuse the right of doing. They're projecting, really, because this is what they do on a day-to-day basis. No one looked at that debate and thought that Biden performed exactly how he needed to be. The bar was really low, and he had failed abysmally. And now they're trying to do damage control. That's where we are today. It's hilarious to watch because they're tearing their hair out, just trying to do damage control. Trying to figure what to do. It's just too funny. I mean, so I'm just sitting back in my chair and I'm just watching the fireworks, and I'm just like with my bag of popcorn. And I'm like, let the games begin. So it's going to get a lot interesting going into November. But you know what? Hey, I mean, we at the Media Research Center, we've been calling out the media for trying to play cover up for Biden for God knows how long, whether it be on inflation, whether it be on the economy, culture, his enormous amount of gaps. But hey, you know what? It's funny to see them unraveling now. Just in that, it's comedic.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the comedy kind of writes itself. Now, what I find interesting is that it just nothing stays still, right? Everything continues, whether it's Krugman and his craziness, or the folks at Politico and the New York Times that are out there, just doing what they can to soften the blow. And I find it interesting because while they're all out there kind of like attacking Biden, they're also kind of like, trying to play both sides of the fence. Do you think they succeed?
No, I don't think so. I mean, they spent enough time and they overplayed their hand by trying to convince everyone, the readers and their listeners, that the right-leaning media, the people who were raising concerns about this for a while, were a bunch of crazies. Now the American people saw for themselves. So guess what? The right doesn't really need to do anything. The American people witnessed it with their own eyes. I mean, what more evidence do you need? I mean, so now the leftist media is kind of stuck in a real pickle here, because now it's either don't believe your lying eyes, or President Biden needs to pass the torch and let someone else carry it on. But the thing is, now they can't even agree amongst themselves what they want to do. Do we replace him? Do we keep him in? I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's really anyone's guess at this point. So now I'm just sitting back and just thinking, like, well, you guys have at it. Have fun tearing it out. I mean, the clock is ticking. But you know what? Hey, it's the American people saw exactly what was going on, and no amount of gaslighting by the media at this point is gonna change what that spectacle. And I say that euphemistically, what we saw during the debate.
Amen to that. I hope that's the truth, but we shall see with this new challenge from El Trompito Donaldus Magnus, who's challenged Biden to yet another debate and 18 rounds of golf. And I don't imagine Biden accepts. Do you?
Well, no. I mean, Trump is probably he's probably one of the greatest trolls there are. And the thing is, the amazing thing, about the media points out Trump's been relatively quiet, because he's just letting the media fire take place, with regards to what Biden's current condition. So he's, it's now that, the media, for the first time in a while, the media's attention has been, relatively speaking, and I say that very carefully, relatively speaking, off of Trump onto Biden, which is, which politically speaking is disastrous. I mean, I guess for the left at this point. And especially for the leftists in the media, and especially for someone like Joe Scarborough, who called Biden, was like, this is the best Biden ever. And I'm like, really? I mean, give me a break. And the American people are just looking at that and shaking their heads and thinking, hey, you know what? I mean, how much more are you going to think that we're really that stupid, that we didn't just see what we actually saw? But, they're going to play that game. Because they're convinced that since they control the information flow, and that's why the Media Research Center has been combating the bias for decades, is because these people literally are so full of themselves and have such enormous egos that they think that whatever strategies that they use, that the American people will just buy it hook, line, and sinker. I don't believe that's going to happen, but we'll see. I mean, we're still a couple of months, until November. We'll see what happens. But I can tell you what, they're not going to be able to erase the images that that the American people saw during that debate. What they saw was someone, whose mental acuity was in question. So that's what they saw. So now the media is doing everything they can to do cleanup, and it looks, and they're tripping over themselves doing it. So that's where we are today.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. And I just, for the sake of the audience, I wanted them to hear a little bit of Joe Scarborough. So we'll play a little bit of Joe Scarborough praising Biden on the way back. Folks, we're on with Joseph Vazquez from MRC. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. And interestingly, Joe Scarborough, who I aforementioned was out there covering for Biden. We got a couple of different clips of him from our good friends. Listen to this.
But I undersold him when I said he was cogent. He's far beyond cogent. In fact, I think he's better than he's ever been. This is a battle for the future of American democracy. And now is a good time. In June, thank God, in June, and not October, in June, this is the last chance for Democrats to decide whether this man we've known and loved for a very long time is up to the task. As for the rest of us, and that's Democrats, that's independents, that's Republicans of good faith. Let's be smart. Let's take a deep breath, and let's understand it's only July the 5th. Such an historic decision should not be made in haste.
That is Joe Scarborough, host of The Morning Joke on MSNBC. And what I find interesting here is while you've got Biden's friends in the media coming to the rescue, covering for him, Karine Jean-Pierre and others, you've also got a good amount of Democrats that are like, listen, bro, no thank you. We need you out of here. And Joe Biden blasted them when he said, I'm not going anywhere. Listen to this.
The American public is not going to move away from me as an average voter. And again, I'm here for two reasons, pal. One, to rebuild the economy for hardworking middle-class people, give everybody a shot. Just a straight shot. Everybody gets a fair chance, number one. Number two, remember all this talk about how I don't have the black support? Come on, give me a break. Come with me. Watch. I'm getting so frustrated by the elites. Now, I'm not talking about you guys, but about the elites in the party who they know so much more. But if any of these guys don't think I should run against me, go ahead, announce for president. Challenge me at the convention.
Challenge me at the convention. Joe Biden says he's not going anywhere. Joseph Vazquez, MRC, what say you?
I mean, if you want to stay in and, if you want to stay in and the media continues to scramble, I mean, hey, I'm just whipping out the popcorn. I'm sitting back and I'm watching the show,
Right.
And you mentioned about Joe Scarborough. Yeah, exactly. Grab your popcorn. It's gonna be funny. I think someone said that this presidential race now is the equivalent of the WWE. It's just entertainment TV now. And you mentioned Joe Scarborough. To be honest, I don't remember the last time Scarborough ever had I can't remember the last time he ever had an original thought. It's like he just spits out whatever the White House gives to him on a regular basis. So that's why he can go out there and then give, he panders, to the left, saying, to be calm, take it easy. There's no fire behind me. This is, it's like the equivalent of the mostly peaceful protest. No, the house is not burning. So I mean, of course they're gonna shuffle Joe Scarborough out there to do damage control because that's what he does. I mean, he's a Biden flunky, and that's all he'll ever be. And the American people know that. I mean, so I mean, it's just the media is still trying to think that they can take Americans for fools. And if Biden decides to stay in, I don't have a Stargate. I have no idea what Biden's going to do in the future, but I can guarantee you what the media is going to do. They're going to do whatever they can to make sure that they keep the Trump guy out of the White House, but make sure that if Biden's a nominee, they're going to do everything they can to gaslight, to propagandize, to deceive. That's what they're going to do. They're going to do what they do best. They're going to be a public relations firm on behalf of the White House. They're going to be Corinne Jean-Pierre's employees, extension. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, and it seems so often that's exactly what we have, right? Surrogates of the White House press shop serving in the media. Now, Joe Vazquez, if Biden, I guess you don't have a crystal ball. None of us really do. But if he bails out, do you think Kamala becomes the person? Do you think he bails out from the presidency to make her the first black woman president so she has something to stand on, something to run on? Or is it really just a challenge from the floor of the DNC convention?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, the point is that you have a lot of Biden loyalists who are going to stick with him to the end. I mean, they can't even really figure out amongst themselves. No one was expecting this to happen. They were expecting Biden, to pull what he did in 2020, just rise above the low bar that was set for him. And then that was going to show him to be, have enough of his cognitive abilities to be able to run the country. That was the image that they were going for in 2020. They thought it would be a repeat of 2024, and it crashed and burned. Now they can't even figure out amongst themselves, and the American people are looking at this disunity, just amongst the left, but also the talking heads in the media. They can't even make sense of it. Now they can't even decide what they want to do. And the question is, the American people are looking at it and say, okay, you guys really don't have your act together. So I mean, for us people who are on the outside looking in, it's like you guys are crashing and burning. How in the world, are we going to trust anything that you have to say about anything? I mean, and look what happened. I think it was today, I believe, CBS News' Ed O'Keefe went into this back and forth between Jean-Pierre over this Parkinson's expert supposedly visiting the White House a number of times. And she was dodging and weaving and not answering the question. And O'Keefe is getting frustrated. And I'm like, this is gold. This is gold. You have the leftist media getting into it with the Biden White House. I said, this is amazing.
Right.
It's a civil war between the
eating their
and
own
the White House. Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, it kind of makes my job a little bit more fun because now I just get to watch it happen in real time. It's like watching a cage match between Jean-Pierre and CBS. I mean, gosh, you couldn't ask for better TV.
Speaking of a cage match, one of our favorite liberal callers from San Francisco, California, who likes to stream the show, David, has a couple of tough questions for you, Joseph Vazquez from MRC. Let's go to David in San Francisco. David, you're on with Rich Valdez and our guest, Joseph Vazquez from the MRC.
Too bad you're still lying about me there, Rich. I've said before I'm a conservative, and I'm not one of these fake conservatives like your guest.
I see.
I was going to ask him where he stands. I was going to ask him where he stands on two of the most recent rulings by the Supreme Court. For example, in Snyder, it now says that a mayor who takes a bribe can keep it if he takes it after his vote. It becomes a gratuity, a gift, a tip. Now, that's a recent Supreme Court that his group is supporting. And the other ruling that came in, it says that America can no longer have experts. The Chevron deference means that there's no peer review for America. Now, what kind of conservative is sitting on the Supreme Court that says that America can no longer have peer review?
Are you talking about the judicial review that they're talking about at the Supreme Court?
It's called the Chevron deference, and the phonies who back your group, your group is backed by big industry, by the corporate state, right? And they don't want experts telling them that their pollution is poisoning.
All right,
the
David,
water.
hang on. I've got to hit a break, but I'm going to see if we can hold our guest over for another couple of minutes so you guys can have this little shootout. Folks, don't go anywhere. We've got Joseph Vazquez, if he'll come back, and David from San Francisco, our favorite pseudo-conservative. I call him a lib. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue our conversation with Joseph Vazquez from the MRC Media Research Center, and I wanted him to be able to respond to our caller, David, who had some questions about recent Supreme Court rulings, the Chevron, as well as I wanted you to chime in on what I think is the Supreme Court punting on the free speech case. You've got about a minute and a half. Go for it, Joe.
Well, it sounded to me like, I don't want to put words in his mouth, that he was upset over the SCOTUS ruling on Chevron, overturning the Chevron doctrine.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know how you can claim to be a conservative and support it. I mean, you're telling me that you want the unelected federal bureaucracy to have unchecked power to be able to interpret, willy-nilly, whatever ambiguous laws there are, to be able to enforce whatever regulations that it wants. That sounds like dystopia right out of 1984. I mean, I didn't vote for these unelected bureaucrats that that are installed as extensions of the White House, or any other regulatory system there. So I mean, that's just foolish. I mean, and to call me a fake conservative, I mean, for goodness sakes, I mean, my work was cited actually by the plaintiffs in the Murphy v. Missouri case to protect Americans' free speech rights. I mean, right. For goodness sakes, I mean, I'm fighting. I was fighting this fight so people like your caller would be able to speak freely and not have their
right to call here and troll you and me.
Yeah, exactly. He wouldn't have the right to do it if government can censor him through the back door. I mean, goodness gracious.
Yeah.
But,
Thank you, David. And Joe, I don't mean to cut you off, but we got to go. Folks, check him out at MRC. Joe Vazquez. He's one of the good guys. Joseph Vazquez, thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Rich. Appreciate it.
You bet. God bless. Folks, we're coming right back. Hour number 2. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media, your liberty-loving Latino amigo. Happy to be here with you this Tuesday night, and welcome to the program. If you want to join us on our late-night national town hall conversation, give us a call, 833-482-5337, 8334-VALDEZ. Plenty to discuss. We've been talking about censorship in the media. We've been talking about the calls for Joe Biden to resign, and there's plenty more to discuss. There were Democrats holding a meeting today on Biden's candidacy. They were in a locked door session, and they came out seemingly unfazed with no answers for anybody. Let's see. Nikki Haley has released all 97 of her delegates, encouraging all of them to vote for Donald Trump, Donaldus Magnus El Trompito, the 45th president of these United States. And let's see what else we've got. Biden's physician rushes to do some damage control after the Parkinson's specialist made multiple visits to the White House, writing a letter last night, basically just saying, look, I know we've had a person there and we haven't reported on it and it's been a big deal and Karine Jean-Pierre won't acknowledge it, but it's really not a big deal. It's very, very regular. It's very standard. Happens all the time. And let's see. Elon Musk warned Democrats, or warns that Democrats are making it near impossible to prove voter fraud. So, in effect, saying Democrats are endorsing voter fraud with their policies. And Jim Inhofe, former senator from Oklahoma, has passed away at the age of 89. R.I.P. Senator. So I want to get into some of those stories and in a little bit. But right now I want to, in particular, talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion and how it's being forced upon people on college campuses all over the country. Not the least of which is a campus in Duke University, right, where we've had some controversy over this, and it's not just there; it's really everywhere. I think there's a lot of people pushing back about this, but I want you to listen to this clip of audio that we have of Dr. Ernest Grant, who's the Vice Dean of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Check this out.
Why does DEI matter in terms of health inequities? And what should schools of nursing and other nursing organizations do in order to advance health equity?
That's a really great question. First of all, let me say that I'm delighted to have joined the faculty here at the Duke University School of Nursing and to further the work that I want to achieve in addressing DEI. I think why DEI matters is because, as you sort of alluded to, it means better outcome for the people that we care for, either in the acute care setting or the non-acute setting. If you think about it, if you've ever been hospitalized and you look around, you don't see anyone that looks like you, you feel very isolated. Can I speak up or can I say, such and such things that perhaps, people may fully understand where I'm coming from. So I think by seeing someone who looks like you that can advocate on your behalf, that can, as a part of the team, that can say, wait a minute, guys, this person is from this culture or this religion or whatever. This is how they view health and health care. It isn't just taking Western medicine and saying, we know what's best for you. It's inviting you to come in and be a part of the team that's going to help you to get better.
Now, listen, again, that was the conversation between Dr. Ernest Grant, Vice Dean of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at Duke University, and the conversation was with Dr. Vincent Guillermo Ramos, Dean of the Nursing School at Duke University. I have to say, I am an American of Puerto Rican descent. I'm a bald-headed guy with a beard. I'm brown by most accounts. I've never been anywhere where I've looked for people that look like me. I rarely find them. It just doesn't happen. And I don't care. It's never mattered to me what people look like. You know, if I would have guided myself that way, I never would have ended up in conservative talk radio, right? I would have said, oh my gosh, Rush Limbaugh, old white guy. You know, Mark Levin, old white guy. Where does that leave me? I never looked at it that way, and that's why I'm here, because I didn't care about any of that stuff. I don't think anybody else did either. But the issue is that this is what they're hanging their hat on. And last week, the Duke Health System fired a doctor for questioning the evidence behind Duke Health's pledge against racism in medicine. The pledge states that racism is a public health crisis and that groundbreaking research and top-notch education requires us to identify forms of racism and hate and to join forces against them. And this is what happened with Dr. Kendall Conger, or is it Conger? It's misspelled here. Repeatedly asking Duke to provide scientific evidence for their claims of racism in medicine. Instead of being given answers, he was fired. Sounds like what the left typically does. So I want to bring Dr. Conger in here, because I want to get to the bottom of this. Dr. Kendall Conger, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Rich. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, and forgive me for mispronouncing your name. It's spelled one way in the title and another way in the packet that I got. So I hope I said it right. It is Conger.
Conger, yes, sir. No worries.
All right. So tell us a little bit what's going on, because you ask a couple of questions, which in my opinion are smart ones, reasonable ones. I think everybody should be allowed to ask a question. And instead of being given any answers, they say, you know what, you're more trouble than you're worth. You got to go.
Yeah, that's what happened. And they actually invited the questions. When they sent out the pledge initially to us, before they published it, they sent a letter and said, if you have questions or concerns, we want to know. So I took it, if I was to be quiet, I was to get tacit approval to what they were doing. And you're right about the pledge. It had two main aspects to it. One was to stand against racism, and the other was to advocate for equity instead of equality.
Right.
So I had a first question. I looked for the data when they said racism is a public health crisis. That kind of struck me as odd. It wasn't something I recognized, and so I started looking to see if I could find any clinical trials, because in the pledge they said we are guided by science, and it was signed by 4 medical doctors. And so I wasn't able to find any, so I asked them if they could provide the data that they used for making this statement. And they sent me some studies, and the studies showed disparity in outcomes between racial groups. And I wrote back, I said, yeah, I understand there's differences in outcomes in the racial groups, but you said because of racism, can you show me that data? Then they wrote me back and said, well, we can't find any clinical data, but we do have social science data. And I was kind of taken aback. I said, well, we're a clinical institution. We're a medical institution.
Right, you're not a social scientist.
Exactly, which is not very good medicine at all. It's not medicine. And actually, I found the whole pledge was more just a pledge to leftist ideology than it was to helping anybody medically. So that was my first question to them. And when I challenged them, they said, well, maybe we could have worded it better. But then they didn't do any changes or updates or let anybody know that, hey, we look. And actually, they didn't look for the clinical data until I asked them for it. And it was after he said, you know what, I've looked for it and I can't find it. And I was thinking, you wrote this down before you even had the data? It's like they're just trying to outdo other institutions and speaking up and looking bold or something. I don't know. So then my next question was, well listen, the pledge is all about equity and equitable outcomes, meaning they want the races to have the same outcomes. And I just asked them, why are we using that as a vision statement, where equity as a vision statement, whereas America has always been about equality? We have equal rights, equal freedoms, equal protections. We have equal opportunity. but not necessarily equal outcomes, especially for groups. So our original goal, I think, that made America great. Our vision statement was that all men are created equal. That's what we're going to be working towards. But they come along and they say, well, we're not happy with the way that's looking. We want to, let's say, fundamentally transform America. Let's go toward equity for groups, which is just socialism, just equal outcomes for all the groups.
Right.
So I asked them, so why, just please explain why you're choosing equity over equality. I didn't say this, but I thought equality was looking pretty good for America. And basically they refused to answer me. I had to write them 3 times. I spoke to them in person. They just ignored me. And eventually I asked my supervisor, I said, do you think they're ever going to answer me? And he said, well, Kendall, anytime they talk with you or, give you information, you share it with other people. And I was like, well, the pledge was public. I thought there was no problem with me sharing what they were saying because he put this out in public. And he said, and I also said, I almost said his name. I almost said to my supervisor, don't you find it strange that they don't want to publicly defend what they publicly put out there?
Right. I thought you guys were scientists.
Yeah, but no, they did not want any robust discussion despite what they say. So I wrote to my group, my other ER physician buddies, and just said, hey, this is what's going on, and just letting people know, because I thought it was a bad form to not answer a question that they elicited. And
sure.
And so I was causing too much trouble for them, and so they just said I needed to go. So they terminated me, but not without cause. So I hadn't done anything medically wrong or ethically wrong. They just were tired of me pushing back, and so they ended my tenure there. Yeah,
folks, we're on with Dr. Kenneth Conger, and he was with Duke University, ER physician. And I want to continue this conversation with him. He's a member of the medical watchdog group Do No Harm, which does amazing work. DoNoHarmMedicine.org is their website. We're going to take a quick pause right here. We're going to come back and talk about the aftermath, the fallout of him being terminated for asking questions. After all, this guy is an emergency room doctor. These are scientists. These are people that are supposed to ask questions and diagnose problems. They're trying to figure out what's going on, and he gets in trouble for doing exactly that. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Mr. Call Screener, who is a budding radio star, by the way. Richie Valdez is terrific.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, America, welcome back. Rich Valdez live till 1 a.m. Eastern time. Our guest is Dr. Kenneth Conger, and he was fired because he felt that it was wrong to racialize medicine, asking questions about why diversity, equity, and inclusion were somehow being made more important than actually taking care of patients. He's an ER physician at Duke Health, and the quote that I've got in front of me in his farewell address, Dr. Conger, who's also a member of the medical watchdog group Do No Harm, wrote, Duke cultivates a society where black patients should prefer black doctors because whites are unconsciously killing them. That's a parenthetical. He also wrote, when I asked Duke for the clinical scientific use for asserting racism is a public health crisis, they had none, zero, despite their earlier claims. And this seems to be exactly how the left works. The left within academia, the left within healthcare, the left within the government, the left within the media, the left in any industry is going to try and assert the idea that there are these arbitrary and capricious problems that are just occurring, just naturally occurring when they're not. Dr. Conger, what's your next step?
Well, my next step is, one, I'm looking for a job, but two, I want to maybe work on Duke a little bit more with regards to equity, because it really seems that there might be a discriminatory aspect to it, because it is favoring one racial group, giving them extra funding and resources just because of their race, which is not to further opportunity, but to further outcomes. And so I think there's something that needs to happen there. But I think it's also interesting. Not only did I say blacks should prefer black doctors, but that everyone else should stay away from black doctors if hired under DEI, which now stands for didn't earn it, because it's just become a new affirmative action, and so it's unfortunate. I mean, no one wants to have second guess their doctor, whatever color they are, but it's the way the program is doing things that it makes you question that. Another thing that I thought was interesting, I was learning as I was going along. I asked my supervisor if Duke seeks to hire only the best and the brightest people that it can find, or do other factors come into play? And he said, well, I'm not sure. Let's ask human resources. And I was like, how can you not be sure? Your very first answer should be, we only hire the best and the brightest, period.
Right.
But they can't say that. And so I asked my chief medical officer, I said, well, look, is diversity in the workplace, is that a goal for Duke? Is that an end to be achieved, or is it a byproduct of seeking the best and the brightest? And he gave me a non-answer. He just said diversity is a Duke value. I said, I understand it's a Duke value, but is it to an end, or is it a byproduct of seeking the best and the brightest? And it seems like they're straying away from seeking the best and the brightest. And to me, that's one of the bad things about DEI.
Yeah, I agree. Instead of trying to attract the people that are most qualified and make it a meritocracy, you're actually handicapping yourself, kind of clipping your own wings from attracting the best high-tier talent to do any particular job. Now, Dr. Kendall Conger, I know you're looking for a job as an ER physician and whatnot because of the unfortunate events of your questions, but tell us about your role and your work with the Do No Harm Foundation.
Oh, yeah, I had the great privilege of meeting Dr. Goldfarb actually a year ago here locally when he was speaking. And we just basically had this similar ideas, which is what you just mentioned. Hey, medicine just needs to be based on meritocracy. We don't care the look, the color, the creed, whatever. That's what he was fighting for. What got him, in trouble where he was at in Pennsylvania. But it's just a great group that's trying to hold medicine's feet to the fire about doing the right thing.
Now, let everybody know how they could follow you and support the work that you're currently doing.
Oh, goodness. I don't really have much in the way of following. I have a LinkedIn. It's just my name. I have a Twitter account. It's at Kendall_Conger. And that's about it.
Okay. Now, Dr. Conger, where do people go to find out about your work with Do No Harm?
So they would just have to go to the Do No Harm website.
Outstanding. Check them out, folks. DoNoHarmMedicine.org, DoNoHarmMedicine.org, or Dr. Kendall Conger online on Twitter in particular. Folks, stick with us. There's more to come straight ahead. Doc, you're a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot. Godspeed to you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Rich.
You bet. Don't go anywhere. Rich Valdez coming right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Happy Tuesday, America. Welcome back. The number 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ is the phone number if you want to join the conversation, our late night national town hall conversation. And we're just talking about DEI with Dr. Conger there. Forgive me for mispronouncing his name. And DEI remains a big issue. It's being pushed everywhere. And I have someone in my immediate personal circle that, occasionally listens to my show. He's not an avid listener, follows some of my social media and doesn't necessarily agree with what I believe politically or even identify as a conservative, but happened to tell me that, wow, my job is really pushing this stuff on us to the point where it's like, okay, we get it. And they just won't let up. And again, this is coming from somebody who is way more liberal than I am and works for a pretty large organization within a very large industry. So it tells me that this is a big push, right? There's a big push to continue to inculcate DEI as part of the mainstream in corporate culture. And one of our favorites, or I should say our least favorite anchor from MSNBC, and you would think that's Joe Scarborough from The Morning Joke, but no, it's Joy Reid. Joy Reid has a guest, Jasmine Crockett. That's right, Congresswoman from Texas, who were critiquing her colleague, Chip Roy from Texas 21. And I want you to listen to this.
Here's Chip Roy of Texas, the guy who was in favor of bringing back lynching and who admitted that he only nominated Byron Donalds to be speaker because he was black and the Democrats had nominated Hakeem Jeffries. Just want to set for my audience up to remind y'all who he is. Here he is talking about the vice president of the United States.
At the end of the day, I don't think they'll go there. I don't think they can. They're in a box. They are in a box where they've got to choose between a mentally incompetent president and a DEI vice president, and they know that they're going to be facing a problem either way.
Now, I know that you are wont to read a loser when a loser says a thing, so I'm just going to let you comment on what you think about those words.
Again, you know what? I want people to listen to them. If you just listen to what they say, it will tell you everything that you need to know. Number one, you can obviously see that he's ignorant as all get out. And number two, you can see that he wishes he had half the competency of Vice President Kamala Harris. Don't talk to me about what a DEI hire looks like, because we know that you have never, ever engaged in diversity, equity, or inclusion when it came to your office. So we know that you don't know anything about hiring diversity.
Wow. Now, the reason I say wow, some of you are listening to that and going, man, good on Jasmine Crockett. She's telling it like it is. I'm going to say no. And the reason why? Because you know who told me that Kamala Harris was a DEI hire? Que mala eres. Do you know who? It was her boss, Joe El Baboso Biden, right, who said, I'm going to choose a black woman to be vice president on my ticket. He also said that he was going to choose a black woman to fill the last Supreme Court position. So when you clearly make it about who they are, their race and genitalia, not their background, their pedigree, or anything else, it's clear that what mattered to you was race and sex. Nothing else. And that's unfortunate. It really is. But for Jasmine Crockett to say that Chip Roy was out of line here somewhere for saying that, no, he's not. I can't see how he was wrong on this one. But anyway, I want to get your thoughts on that. Of course, your calls and more are coming up. 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. I also want to get into this topic. The conversation of, are people splitting up because of chores in the house? Is it dominating divorces? Is it breaking up roommate situations? Is it the end of partnerships because people are not keeping up their end of the chores? I don't know the answer to that. I'm hoping to find out the answer to that straight ahead with our guest. Maggie Eckburg is scheduled to join us. And, of course, the phone number, if you want to join us on that topic as well, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Brown, he's bald, and he's breaking it down. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, America, welcome back. Amigos, we continue our conversation. And I'm looking at this article in Yahoo Finance. Fighting over chores is one of the most common causes of divorce. But there's an easy way to neutralize the threat. I wish I would have read this back in 2011 when I got divorced over chores. I think the number one complaint, believe it or not, people never believe me when I tell them this, was that I did not place my socks directly into the hamper. I had bad aim, and one sock would go in, one would land on the side. And I'm going to share something intimate. I hope she's not listening, my ex-wife. But I remember she turned to me once and said, "You expect me to trust you to take care of me when I'm in my 80s and need you to help physically care for me when you can't even put your socks in a hamper?" And I thought this was the most ridiculous stretch of the imagination ever. But here I am, I don't know, 13 or 14 years later, and I'm only beginning to scratch the surface of understanding that, especially looking at this a piece like this. It really is a real thing. Whether it's realistic or not, some partners, I'm going to go with women in particular, feel a sense of security when you're able to hold down your end of your responsibilities, even socks in the hamper. And this can ultimately threaten their sense of safety and security. Now, that doesn't happen to people, I think, that are typically very secure, but should someone be dealing with that or a childhood wound around that particular area, you might find yourself in a world of hurt if you don't get your socks in the hamper. So I want to talk about this piece and a couple of other things in this vein with our guest. Our guest is Maggie Eckburg. She does some healthy living coaching as well as running a company called the EG Life. Maggie Eckburg from MaggieEckburg.com. Welcome.
Hello, it's great to be here.
My pleasure. Thank you for being with us. So in your practice and in your work with your clients and those that you're coaching, do you find that the article is true, that really people really are fighting over chores? And is that one of the most common causes of divorce?
I think there is a lot of truth to the article in the sense that chores are something that people do fight about, and that can build a lot of resentment and anger. But I have come to find in my experiences working with people, but also as being someone who's been married for 13 years, that when chores become, when chores become at the forefront of an argument, I think there's often a much deeper thing at play. And I know you mentioned in your intro there that sometimes there can be some wounds you carry from your past or things like that you're bringing with you with that sock on the ground. So it becomes much more than just the sock on the ground. Yeah. So I think that it's just important to note that, yes, chores can be a leading division point, but I think oftentimes it's a call to go somewhere deeper with it, and then it's actually really not about the chores. The chores are just the easy grab to argue about because the dirty dishes are right in front of you.
Yeah, and what you're saying couldn't be any more true. Like I said, it took me more than a dozen years of post-divorce life to figure out why this was so severe. I said, come on, it's a pair of socks. Relax, take it easy. And clearly, obviously, it was so much more than that, and I lacked the maturity to realize that at the time, or maybe even the empathy to kind of really relate there. But
and sometimes I've even said to my husband, like, it's not, I'll use the sock as an example, but I'll say, it's not about the sock. Why can't you just ask me what it's really about? Yeah.
Right, yeah. I would ask that question myself and always landed with, if you don't know, then it's even worse. I was like, oh, so now I'm sloppy with my socks and I'm not a fortune teller. I'm not a mind reader. I'm in big trouble here. And I think that's ultimately what it comes down to. If you don't have a solid basis of communication or ground rules on arguing, and you couple that with, prior trauma, prior wounds, other baggage that you bring into the relationship, inevitably, you find yourself in a situation that's going to be challenging to get through. How do you advise people that are in a situation like the one we're looking at, where people are fighting over chores, and according to Yahoo Finance, this being one of the top reasons for divorce?
Maintaining a posture of curiosity with one another. I think when you start dating, curiosity is heightened extremely so. Who is this person? They're so beautiful. They're so handsome. I want to learn more about them. And you enter into their space so easily at the beginning. And then I think when marriage comes in, and especially when kids are at play, it's easy for your curiosity to wane, and you forget to check in with the other person, or it can be easy to forget to check in with the other person and to see where they're at with things and how they feel about the load at home and how things are going. And we can get lazy sometimes. So I think keeping a posture of curiosity, like, how's she doing right now? What might she need right now? What's going on in the house here? Oh, that handle on the cabinet's still broken. That is huge on the man's part to remain curious about his woman, because that leads to him pursuing her, which women love. But then for the women, we do tend to be, as you had mentioned, we tend to hope that our men can be mind readers. Don't they just know already? Don't I just have to say something? I remember a time after my first baby was born, sitting on the couch, breastfeeding and trying to eat dinner, and the baby was crying and it was not going well. And my husband came home from work shortly after, sits down on the couch, puts his feet up on the coffee table and opens a beer, and I was just seething. But
how dare you?
I didn't say a word. I didn't say a word to him, though, and this is where I'm addressing the women. I just gave him daggers with my eyes and thought at some point he'll feel his wrongdoing.
Right. Good luck.
Yes, and it doesn't work. It doesn't help. So for the women to know that we have to be bringing these things to the light and sharing what our needs are, because oftentimes if we keep it in the dark, it builds and it builds and it builds, and then things explode between us as a couple, and then the husband is often, or your partner's often just like, what is even happening? I thought it was a sock on the floor, and now it's something so much bigger. So just, men staying curious, and obviously that works for women too, but men staying curious about your woman, and then women don't expect mind readers and bring things to the light before they become a bigger deal. And oftentimes a caring man will say, oh, sounds good. I can get you water. I can do that, because they do care. They're just not seeing things the same way that we are.
Fascinating. So simple, yet so profound. Maggie Eckburg is a healthy living coach, founder of the EG Life. And when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about how this plays out into parenting and kids' behavior as well. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue our conversation. Again, Open Phone America starting very shortly, 833-482-5337. Get your calls in now. And I want to talk about something that teachers are calling roommate parenting. They're saying it's promoting bad behavior at school, and it basically consists of a parenting style that I guess the best way to put this is that the parent and the child kind of come together over a meal, but really don't do much talking apart from that. Kind of like having a roommate that you might say, oh, how was your day? Oh, good, super. And then, you sit in the living room in different parts, you sit in different parts of your living space, kind of, jointly, but separately. And saying that this is really creating a decline in quality and involved parenting. And that's coming from the teachers, saying this is a very lax style of parenting, manifesting very few, but yet specific ways that are detrimental to a child's development. And I want to talk about this with our guest, because I'd never heard of this. I've heard of gentle parenting and permissive parenting, and I could probably do 3 hours on gentle parenting, but I'd never heard of this one, this roommate parenting. So I want to bring our guest back in, Maggie Eckburg, healthy living coach, as well as the founder of the EG Life. Maggie Eckburg, what do you think about roommate parenting?
Well, I'm new to the term as well and found it fascinating, especially because I'm a former teacher of 14 years. And I can relate to a lot of what the teacher was expressing, sure. But I also thought there was a lot to think about, and some things that I think would depend a lot about where you're teaching and your experience with the students and the families and how involved they are at your school, because that does vary from place to place. But yeah, this idea that just like how we were talking about relationships, how couples can become like roommates if communication wanes, that parents and their children, if they become more like roommates and there's not attentiveness toward one another, that a child who desires to feel a sense of belonging and know that they're loved and they're worth attention can then start seeking that out in school when they're not getting it at home. And that could be at the expense of the structure of the classroom. They might even like the teacher, but their desire to know that they're good enough and that people care about them and want to look at them and talk to them beyond just logistics and meals and things like that can overpower their respect for their teacher. And so they might just lash out in class or not follow rules because they long for that attention so deeply.
Yeah, it seems problematic, and it almost seems like parents taking a back seat to what's happening. And I don't want to trash the parents, but I will say, I think I did some work with the state of New Jersey when I worked in state government, and it was around family strengthening initiatives and parenting programs and things of that nature. And there's so much I didn't know about that. And I feel like that's something that if you're having a kid, you should be, I don't want to say forced, because I don't believe that the government should force you to do anything. But it would be strongly encouraged for people to take a parenting class so they can realize that there's a role that you have as parents, and you need to kind of practice it and become good at it so that your children can benefit from it and society overall can benefit from it. Because I think once you get into this, any one of these parenting styles that are, I'm going to say, somewhat new aged, I think it opens up space for other problems like behavior problems in school, or the inability to connect with other kids that age, because you get along so well with your parent that you don't get along with kids your own age, like with gentle parenting or whatever. So just lots to discuss there. Maggie, I want you to tell everybody how they can follow the work that you're doing and how they can learn more about the work.
To learn more about the work I'm doing, I'd head over to my website at maggieeckburg.com. And you can also check out my stuff on Instagram at Everything is Grace Photography.
Outstanding. Folks, you heard it there. Make sure you check her out. And Maggie Eckburg, I want to thank you for being with us. Hopefully we'll have a chance to talk again in the future because I think you have some really good insight. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You bet. All right, amigos, Open Phone America is coming up right now. Your calls on parenting and everything else. Don't go anywhere.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, Here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the third hour of the program, our Tuesday night edition. This is our late night national town hall conversation, and if you want to join us, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez is the phone number. And a couple of things going on today. As you know, the pressure continues on President Biden to get out of the race from some of his Democrat friends and foes, as well as a bunch of others, and those that support him that have really come to his aid and rescue. And they had a big meeting on Capitol Hill regarding Biden's candidacy. I think they came out of it with no answers. Biden still seems to be the main man in charge. And, of course, President Trump seized the day, carpe diem, and the opportunity to take a shot at Joe El Baboso Biden, saying, hey, look, I think we should have another debate. Why wouldn't we? Right? Leave it to Trump to say, I think we should have another debate. And I'm with him. If I were Trump, I'd say, I think we need to do this every week. Every week I want to have a debate with Joe Biden. But he also, in true Trump fashion, decides to talk about how he would school him on the golf course as well. Listen to this.
They want Crooked Joe out of the race. It's a shame the way they're treating him. But don't feel sorry for him. He's a very bad guy. He weaponized government. Remember that. He's a very bad guy. Don't feel sorry for him. So tonight I'm officially offering Joe the chance to redeem himself in front of the entire world. So Marco and Byron and everybody, here's what we're going to do. You guys can be referees if you like. Let's do another debate this week so that Sleepy Joe Biden can prove to everyone all over the world that he has what it takes to be president. But this time it will be man-to-man, no moderators, no holes barred. Just name the place, anytime, anywhere. And in the debate, Sleepy Joe also declared that he wanted to test his skills and stamina against mine on the golf course. Can you believe this? Did you ever see him swing? He's like this. Yeah. That's why this evening I am also, and this is in honor of you and everybody here, is 45,000 people. That's a lot of people. I'm also officially challenging Crooked Joe to an 18-hole golf match right here. On Doural's Blue Monster, considered one of the greatest tournament golf courses anywhere in the world, one of the great courses of the world. It will be among the most watched sporting events in history, maybe bigger than the Ryder Cup or even the Masters. And I will even give Joe Biden 10 strokes aside. 10 strokes, that's a lot. That means 20 strokes in case you don't play golf. I will give him 10 strokes aside, and if he wins, I will give the charity of his choice, any charity that he wants, $1 million. And I'll bet you he doesn't take the offer. I would bet because he's all talk. But what that match will do is prove that Joe is, in fact, all talk and no action.
That is, of course, President Trump, and really just calling Biden out, and in a funny way, right? I think it was very funny. There was a lot of fun and games there. I think he was dead serious, but I think it was still funny the way he did it. And this was Trump taking shots, but even the media. Those in the media that I criticize regularly, Jake Tapper, who I call Fake Tapper, Abby Phillip from CNN, they had to come to the rescue here, right? Jake Tapper was basically saying it's Democrat elites that are mostly late to acknowledge these age and ability issues. Yeah, he's right, because those of us in the center on the right, we've been calling this stuff out since before he was elected. Right, when he was hiding in his basement, running for president the first time. So, yeah, Jake, the Fake Tapper, absolutely. You got it wrong even though you're getting it right, you still got it wrong. You got it wrong initially. But listen to Jake Tapper.
In reality, 72% of voters say that they believe President Biden is too old. That's according to CNN's most recent polling. Voters have been saying this for quite a long time. The reality is that the Democratic elites are mostly late to acknowledge these age and ability issues compared to the rest of the public. The elites have been forced to reckon with it after the debate just 11 days ago.
Look at my career. I've not had many of those nights. It was a terrible night, and I really regret it happened. But the fact of the matter is, how can you assure you're going to be on faith that can intervene on your way to go to, work tomorrow? Age wasn't, the idea I'm too old.
Fact of the matter is, how can you assure you're going to be out on your way to go, work tomorrow? Age wasn't, the idea that I'm too old. Keep in mind, that soundbite is supposed to be reassuring to those Democratic supporters who have gone wobbly. Many Democratic officials with whom I've spoken are worried that President Biden and his family and his inner circle appear to be in complete denial, not just about whatever might be wrong with him, but the state of his candidacy right now.
I got to tell you, on this one, we're going to have to call him the real, right? Jake, the fake Tapper, is telling the truth here. He's 100% right. They're lost. This is scaring everything out of people that hate Trump, that are hoping that Biden will win again, right? I wonder if we could get a real reaction out of, I wonder if fake Tapper could interview Joy Reid, if that would be a thing. That would be great, right? Because yesterday she said she would take Biden in a coma over any form of Trump. I don't know. I don't know if she was telling the truth. Maybe she was, but how many are there like her that would prefer an incapacitated Biden to a fully functional Trump? I don't know the answer, but I'm sure there's some part of the population that's thinking, yeah, I agree with her. I'll take it. But it's got to be very slim, right? Very, very little bit of people, not a whole lot of people. And one more for you, just to set the stage here. Abby Phillip, she's a host on CNN. She was on The Late Show last night saying that the CNN debate hosts weren't fact-checking Trump because Biden's aides told us that he was going to be pressuring Trump. So, CNN would have fact-checked them if they knew that Biden wasn't going to, is really what she's saying. Listen to this.
People need to see not only what is Trump like generally, but what is he like right now? And what is he really going to say? And it was President Biden's job to put the pressure and the spotlight on Trump. I mean, that's what his aides told us that he was going to do. And I think they acknowledge that he didn't execute on that game plan. And that's why the debate was not great for him. But they didn't set the standard of saying, oh, well, he doesn't want to be in a position to challenge Trump. They asked for the debate. Right. They wanted to challenge
They agreed to those rules.
They agreed to those rules.
They agreed to those rules is right. They asked for the debate. That's right. Right? Nobody was expecting a debate this early in ever, right? It's never happened before. We're amazed that it happened this time. It was spectacularly bad for Biden. So why? Did he garner anything? Maybe, but I don't think so. I think the negative PR, the negative press here was way more than anything that he might have been able to gain, in my opinion. So I'm going to get your thoughts on that and more as we continue. I see we got calls from, Arkansas, Chicago, Maryland, Idaho. We're going to get to your calls right now, plus anybody else who wants to get in. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ is the phone number. Going to get to you straight ahead, 833-4-VALDEZ. Don't move a muscle.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue with our conversation on Joe El Baboso Biden. And the question that I've got now for you is, what do you think of what Congressman Mike Quigley said on Capitol Hill today? He says Biden has to step down because he can't win. Listen to this.
The fighting spirit and pride and courage that served the country so well 4 years ago, helped Joe Biden win, will bring the ticket down this time. He just has to step down because he can't win. And my colleagues need to recognize that a dismissive letter is not going to change any minds.
I think Mike Quigley's right. I don't think I've ever agreed with him before. But I totally agree with him. So I want to get your thoughts on this, on what Congressman Quigley said today on Capitol Hill. Let's go to the phones. Joe, Salem, Arkansas, KSAR. Joe, go right ahead.
Yeah, salutations and greetings there, Rich.
Thank you. You too.
Listen, yeah, Quigley is absolutely right, and everybody knows it. He's not going to win, so it's going to be interesting to see how long it takes him to get out or what they have to do to get him out. They should have used that 25th Amendment if it's not too late. But what I was going to ask you about on electoral votes, what if Nikki Haley, the 92 that she gave up and encouraged them to go with Trump, what if she didn't give them up, even though she's dropped out of the campaign? What happens to them then?
Well, as far as I know, and this is an I don't know answer, honestly, but I don't believe that I think she can pledge her delegates however she wants, but they're not really hers, right? She can only say, I want my people to go with Trump. And, on the strength of her endorsement, they should, in fact, go with Trump. But if they want to protest that, I guess that's a thing they could do, but I don't know. I think it ultimately we'll have to bring that to our resident historian or one of our guys in the control room. I think ultimately the party rules, state party rules, determine how that works, and I think they all go to whomever the nominee is, and that's what happens at the convention. So I don't know that there's a way around that per se. Interesting question, though, because ultimately you can really, I think, really screw things up, right? What I do know is if, at the end of the election and there's, I don't know, RFK Jr., Joe El Baboso Biden, and El Trompito Donaldus Magnus, and none of them gets to 270, then eventually the highest vote getter will likely become the president by an act of Congress. It's never happened before, but that is the protocol that's in place. That's the constitutional remedy. So I hope we don't see either of those, right? I hope everybody that has delegates pledged to them says, hey, vote for so-and-so, and that happens. And I think from looking at all the maps, it looks like Trump is well on target to get to the number he needs, the 270, in order to win. But again, we're months away, and it's early in the game, so we shall see. Joe, thank you for your call. I appreciate you. Salem, Arkansas, KSAR. Let me see. Where do we go now? Let's go to the middle of the country and check in with our friend Diane. She's calling us from WGN in Chicago. Diane, go right ahead.
Hi, Rich. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure.
Hi. Oh, I just wanted to say one thing in preface before I say what I say. You said you were a little bit rude last night. I was listening, even though I didn't call in, but I was listening later to a young man named Joshua, and you sort of mocked him, and you said, you're saying, He seemed quite innocently just trying to say something. I just wanted to say that you seemed to be in
forgive
a
me.
bad mood.
Part of that could have been the deal. It's part of my job here is to be the arbiter of the airwaves that I'm entrusted for these 3 hours, and we have a whole process in place where people hold on for a while, and we have a call screener that is prepping and prodding and letting them know, hey, you're going to be up in the next segment, and make sure you get straight to your point, and maybe avoid any lengthy pleasantries and whatnot. And he just seemed very, very unprepared. And he also was making some underhanded comments that were not supported by any type of fact, not even his own opinion. And he was just saying stuff. And it was cheap. It was a very low-rent attack, in my opinion. So I gave him a little bit of his own medicine. At least that's how I viewed it. But forgive me if I offended your sensibilities, Diane.
Oh, well, it wasn't. It was one thing you zeroed in on, and he was about to explain it. And I wanted to know, too. And he couldn't.
Yeah, me too.
It,
but that's the problem.
But when he hesitated, you didn't think he was quick enough or something.
Well, no, there's a clock, right? It's live radio. So, at 28 minutes and, 30 seconds past the hour, the music plays for 30 seconds, and then we're forced to go to a commercial break. So when that happens, I got to go. There's nothing I can do. I can't make the time stretch. And he used all of his precious time to and didn't get anything out. And all of America, including you, were waiting for him to say something robust and profound. And instead, he just, took a couple of cheap shots, didn't really make any case for anything, tried to, it was a real slow start for him. And that's why, I always commend people like you and anybody else who calls talk radio. In my whole life, I think I've called talk radio 2 times. Not an easy task. So, in my opinion, it's easier to talk on the radio than to call a talk show. And I mean that with everything that I'm saying right now, because it's not easy. It's some people have a gift for that and others don't. And I realize that. But at the end of the day, I still have to give you an entertaining and informative show that moves, that is devoid of dead air. And if I'm not able to deliver on that, people just, they lose interest in the program. So I have to, sometimes crack the whip a little bit.
I could see if you did that, but he wasn't doing any cheap shots. But anyway, listen to it again if you get a chance. But anyway,
Sure.
Thank you for taking time with me. I was just going to say one of the things that happens here in the city of Chicago. Over the 4th of July weekend, there were 109 shootings and 19 dead. And what does the mayor say on Monday morning? What's his big address to the citizens? I'm urging everyone in the city to step up and say we've had enough. Don't you love
Unbelievable.
it? It's like we've had, how many times does we, the citizens, first of all, nobody can punish these people, or there's no punishment. We're so divided, and then we're supposed to step up as citizens and say we've had enough. I mean, we've said everybody's in effect has said we've had enough. But that's the mayor's statement to the city. Instead of being really, it's a horrible thing, right? For him, he's the leader of the city. But that's the hot air of that type of politician. Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, Diane. Thank you for your thoughts on that. And I agree with you. What about the other 51 weeks out of the year where we see horrific shootings from these murderous weekends in Chicago? Why didn't we have enough then, Mr. Mayor? Yeah, I'm with you. Diane in Chicago, WGN, thank you. Folks, coming right back, Rich Valdez. The rest of the show continues. Don't go anywhere.
Across America to the liberty-loving Latino, Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
PSA for anyone going to the grocery store. Yes, even natural health food stores. Next time you're in the produce aisle, please be on the lookout for this label. And whatever you do, do not go near it. Appeal, or Edappeal, is a World Economic Forum and Bill Gates funded product that is being sprayed on fruits and vegetables, which are on the verge of spoiling, so that they appear fresh and last longer. Even more frightening is the fact that Appeal has been approved for use on USDA organic produce under the name Organappeal. The main ingredient found in the Appeal coating is mono and diglycerides, which are extracted from grapeseed oil. This is then processed with the use of 2 solvents, which are ethyl acetate and heptane, both of which are hazardous chemicals known to seriously damage internal organs in the case of repeated exposure. This coating cannot be washed off.
That is a report from One American News on Apeel. This is a company started by Bill Gates to according to them, protect produce so that it lasts longer. Basically, it's some sort of preservative. And people are concerned about the synthetic nature of it and how that affects other products. I don't know if it was a year ago, 2 years ago, Katy Perry, the pop singer, bought a very famous company, Bragg's, the apple cider vinegar company, and scored a deal with Bill Gates to now use apple from the apple cider that are sprayed with this Apeel spray. And that a lot of people were up in arms because they felt that this is going to negatively affect the formula. And, you know, it makes sense to me, right? I think a lot of people don't want Bragg's apple cider vinegar with the mother to be affected. But this, to me, opens the door to a way bigger question or a bigger conversation, which is what's going on with food and why are we doing so much to change the way we eat? Whatever happened to just good old-fashioned food? Seems to be like a thing of the past. Seems like even the organic stuff, like Organapeel, is being used there. I'm just very curious. I really am. I hear so many things. There's so many people out there with so many different stories. And I feel like when you see, you know, I guess what I'm saying is where there's smoke, there's fire. And when you see people getting as ill as they do in our country, you can't help but think maybe there's something going on here with our food. The fact that we're sick, we're obese, we're this and we're that. What is the deal with the food supply? So I want your thoughts and reactions on that. 833-4825-337, 833-4-VALDEZ, as well as the spouses that are fighting over chores in the house or roommate parenting, as well as anything on our political topics as well. Lots to discuss there. Let's go to Frank, Cumberland, Maryland, WCBC. Frank, go right ahead.
When am I going to be allowed to have more than one wife? My question is, when will our laws against bigamy change? And the reason I ask is last night we were discussing how our laws are based on religion, the Judeo-Christian religion of the Bible. But we are now a secular, multicultural society. We believe in separation of church and state. All laws like homosexual marriage, pornography, abortion, they've all been changed. Mormons, Muslims, they both believe in more than one marriage. So my question is, why can't we have more than one wife? When will the laws against bigamy change?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I would say if it's going to happen, it's probably going to happen in Utah before it happens anywhere else. I would say it's very soon. And I think this was part of the push to uphold traditional marriage between one man and one woman, like the old one that Joe Biden used to support and Bill and Hillary Clinton used to support and George W. Bush supported. DOMA, the DOMA, the Defense of Marriage Act, which was really something that I think would have held the line there. But you're right. I think it's only a matter of time. Dr. James Dobson famously said, and he wrote in his book, Marriage Under Fire, that the moment that we begin to allow this erosion to occur, we're going to see all sorts of things, right? People saying that their spouse is in effect their favorite pet, or some exotic animal that they've purchased and to marry, so they can leave all of their earthly possessions to this animal, and he said it would give rise to bestiality and all sorts of other things that are unintended consequences. And I think that might be one of the unintended consequences is the idea that maybe polygamy can become a thing, right? And I don't know when it happens, if it happens, but I could see that being the next thing to break from tradition. So good question, and that's another one I'll have to put a little research into, and maybe we'll find a guest who's an expert on the sister wives. I appreciate it, Frank in Cumberland, Maryland, WCBC. And if you find out before me, please let me know and invite us to the wedding, right? When Frank has more than one wife. This is a good thing, I think. So, Frank, thanks for the call, my brother. I appreciate it. Let me see. Where do we go? We're going to continue. I want to go to, well, before we do that, because I don't want to cut you short and we might run out of time, we're going to go to Deborah in Burlington, Vermont when we come back. Again, the phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Madam Secretary, have there been any discussions among cabinet secretaries about invoking the 25th Amendment?
No. She shut it down. That is Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen absolutely saying no to the 25th Amendment for Joe El Baboso Biden. Let's get your thoughts on that. The phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. Let's go to Deborah, Burlington, Vermont, WVMT. Deborah, go right ahead.
Hi, Rich. Rich, according to Wikipedia, when Jill married the president, they went to behind the Iron Curtain on their honeymoon in Hungary. And I wondered if anybody knew why they would do that.
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't know where they I don't know how they went. I do know I've been to Hungary, to Budapest in particular, and beautiful city. Beautiful city. They love liberty. They the majority of the people there are very, very pro-liberty and pro-family, honestly. Prime Minister Viktor Orban has put so many policies into place to reduce people's taxes based on whether they're married or not, whether they have one child versus two children versus three children. The more kids you have, the less taxes you pay. And obviously, if you're married, same thing. And I thought that was really cool. And there's a lot. I mean, you just get off the plane at the airport, and there's all these pro-family messages, advertised all over the place. So I can tell you that, modern day Hungary, at least when I was there, it was a really good time. Old school Hungary, if in fact Joe and Jill went there, I don't know. I don't know if he was visiting his friends, if he has any friends. I don't know. But I do know it's a telltale sign for some of the real commies out there, like former New York City Mayor Bill El Bobo de Blasio, whose real name is Warren Wilhelm, and changed his name to Bill de Blasio so he could run for mayor in New York City. And this guy did his honeymoon in Cuba. And you had Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders did his honeymoon in Moscow. So I know there's some people out there that absolutely love that and brag and say, oh, the architecture is phenomenal. I love the city, the people, blah, blah, blah. They go all on this tangent about how much they really enjoy the communist culture, if you will. Not per se, but that's what I gathered from it. So, yeah, I think, if that is the case, it wouldn't surprise me. I'm hoping that it isn't, though. Deborah, thanks for your call from Burlington, Vermont, WVMT. I really appreciate it. And let me see. Let's go to Iris calling us from Lansing, Michigan on WILS. Iris, go right ahead.
Oh, Rich.
Good evening.
Hello. Thank you so much for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I'm just kind of disgusted with all of these Democrats coming out in not in full force probably, but they're coming out saying they're railing behind their leader. And I wish somebody would make a video showing, with the title "The Face of the Democratic Party," and show this crinkly nose, squinty-eyed, open-mouth expression that Biden always gets, and then split screen showing a loop of all of the stumbling, falling, and tripping, and on the other side, looping all of the verbal gaffes. Because it's just ridiculous. And then end it with hearing, oh God, his name's escaping me right now. But after the meeting this morning, he's saying, "I'm with Joe. I'm standing with Joe," and the other guy is saying, "I'm riding with Biden." Just to show them how foolish it is. And if it's really true that any of these people are actually surprised at, how far he's fallen, his abilities, his verbal abilities, and so on, it must be because they were focusing on all these erroneous issues that we've had to, had dumped on us in the schools of the gender thing and the transgender sports thing, and oh my gosh, they're not focusing on what they're supposed to be, right? I just want to put that idea out there.
Well, I appreciate that, but I think there's an alternative to it, which is what Joy Reid mentioned yesterday when she said that she would take Biden in a coma over Trump in his current state. And I think that's telling when you have people that are willing to vote for Biden, irrespective of him being awake, and putting their support behind him because their dislike and disdain for Trump is more than their own, than their own. Their hatred outweighs their own good judgment, is the word I was looking for. Then you're kind of lost there, right? There's no helping a Joy Reid. There's no helping someone who's in that position. And I'm not devoid of that. I'm not that way in politics, but in real life, I've met people that, sometimes you dislike somebody so much that you're willing to forego other relationships to just make sure you don't have to engage in that one relationship with these people or have that interaction, that one negative interaction. So I do get that. And it's unfortunate, but it's one of those realities of life. Iris in Lansing, Michigan, WILS, thank you for your call. It's always nice to hear from you. I appreciate it. And folks, we take a pause, and then we come back and we wrap it up with the speed round. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. This is America. This is Night. This is Rich Valdez.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was in the foothills of the Himalayas. Let's go lick the world. Let's get it done. We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing. Let me start off with two words. Made in America.
A three-letter word, jobs, Jobs.
Know the average tax rate they pay? 8%. 8%. I'm not, I may be a white boy, but I'm not stupid. I may be Irish, but I'm not stupid. To build chips, the 3 nano chips, the 3 nano chip.
The nano chips, the nano chips. Again, one of our callers said that it would be nice if we had a demo reel of Biden's gaffes, and I think the RNC put this together, and they did a good job of it. And, of course, the Trump campaign also has a bunch of them out there in the form of campaign ads. So they're definitely taking heed to that advice, and that's available. But something that I want to share with you before we part ways this evening, and I'm going to get to your calls momentarily, is the exchange between Karine Jean-Pierre and Peter Doocy today and others in the White House press corps, where she's very adamant about protecting Biden, which, again, is her job, but she kind of gets called out on it. Listen to this.
This morning, House Speaker Mike Johnson said, as he has before, that Democrats have been covering up the president's mental acuity for years. How do you respond to that? And has the White House misled Americans?
So I will say this. Americans out there, folks who are watching, who are not normally in the day-to-day of what's happening in this world, there is a comprehensive full comprehensive medical report on the website, whitehouse.gov. I would encourage them to take a look. Read that report, and they can also read for themselves what his specialist, a group of specialists,
his Parkinson's specialist
coming out of the medical unit, decided on, what they examined, what they saw, what they reported on. I think that matters as well. It is a group of them that come together when it comes to doing their physical. It is extensive physical. And so there is something there for them. It's transparent. It's out there. It's for them to read. It's for the American, not just for you, for the American people to take a look.
She's blowing hot air. Nobody's taking a look at anything other than what Biden's doing. But she went on and basically just tried to say, no, it's okay for the president to be asleep at the wheel. Listen to this one.
When the president was in Italy for the G7, and you remember he skipped one of the leaders' dinner, which was a major event for the summit. And I remember you were asked about it by reporters, and you said, we shouldn't read too much into the fact that he's skipping one dinner. I mean, would the explanation actually have been that he was tired and that he needed to skip something that was happening so he didn't
And my answer stays the same. I wouldn't read too much into it. It's not the first time that he has. He has a really busy schedule, and there's a lot going on. As you know, when the president is abroad, he has continued to do domestic stuff as well as meeting with global leaders. And so I truly would not read too much into it, and I will leave it there.
So she says, look, it's all about sleep. It's all about sleep. It's all about sleep. Now, I want to go to cut number 10, because now they're doubling down on how important it is for the president to sleep. Listen to this.
Congresswoman, if a member of your staff said to you, you know what, Congresswoman Brown, I got to sleep more and work less, you'd fire them, wouldn't you? Or you'd start looking for their replacement, would you not?
Absolutely not. Listen, the fact that the president can admit his shortcomings, I think, is a blessing. I think it demonstrates his integrity. I think it demonstrates his authenticity. And I think it demonstrates how genuine he is when it comes to telling the truth. The man on the other side has no relationship with the truth, unable to do such a thing. And so that is the thing, again, that concerns me more than what you're talking about as it relates to
Representative Shontel Brown. She goes on and on about how much integrity Biden shows by taking naps. I mean, this stuff is something you can't make up. And that's Representative Shontel Brown, Democrat from Ohio, on News Nation with, let me see, who is this host here? Blake Berman. So somebody who's not asleep with a minute to go. Paul, Boise, Idaho, KBOI. Go for it, my man.
Okay, you mentioned Bill Gates. He's the guy that wants us to eat bugs and grow that fake meat
and now fake apple peels, right? Or artificially preserved apple peels. And it really makes the question here, why are we doing all of that? Paul, I'm sorry I got you cut off. I missed by a few seconds, but we'll get to you tomorrow. Hasta la próxima. Good night, America. Take care. God bless. I am Rich Valdez.